What if I told you that every self-help video you've watched, every book you've read, every guru you've followed has been keeping you stuck? I know what you're thinking. Here we go again. Another video promising answers. And you're right to be skeptical. Because you've been here before, haven't you? You're searching. You've been searching for years. Maybe it started with a breakup, or a job you hated, or that moment at 3 in the morning when you realized you didn't recognize your own life. So you started looking for the answer, the missing piece, the thing that would finally make sense of it all. And here's what happened. You found something that worked, a video that resonated, a book that spoke to you. You felt that rush of recognition, that moment of clarity, where everything suddenly made sense. You thought this is it. But then what? A week later, maybe 2, you're back where you started. The insight faded. The motivation evaporated. And you're scrolling again looking for the next hit of understanding. You know this pattern intimately. Late nights on YouTube moving from video to video. Bookshelves filled with unfinished solutions. A strange addiction where the more you consume, the less peace you find. There's a reason for this, and it's not what you think. The search itself has become the problem, not because searching is wrong, but because of where we're looking. This video could genuinely be the last one you need to watch, not because I have some special knowledge, but because of something Carl Jung discovered over 100 years ago, something that changes the entire game. The seeker and the sought are the same. Everything you've been looking for out there has been inside you the whole time. Not metaphorically, literally. The answers you seek, the peace you crave, the wholeness you long for, it's not missing. You are what you're searching for. Jung put it this way: your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes. This isn't just poetry. This is the map to everything. And once you see it, really see it, the compulsive searching stops. Not because you give up, but because you realize you've been looking in the wrong direction. For the next 50 minutes, we're going to trace the architecture of why you feel the way you feel. Why your life keeps presenting you with the same problems in different disguises. Why nothing out there brings lasting peace. And most importantly, what to actually do about it. But I need to warn you, this isn't comfortable. Jung's insights don't offer quick fixes. What they offer is something far more valuable, the truth. And the truth is that you've been living in a prison of your own, mistaking the bars for protection. Ready? Let's begin. Before we dive deeper, if this resonates with your soul's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more transformational content. Your support helps this message reach other souls who need to hear it. Here's something that might disturb you. You've never actually experienced reality. Not once in your entire life. What you've experienced is your mind's projection of reality. Your unconscious mind's interpretation filtered through every wound, every belief, every unresolved piece of your past, reflected back to you as what you call the world. Everything you think happens to you actually happens through you. Your life isn't what it seems. It's a mirror of your psyche. The people who show up, the situations that repeat, the emotions that flood you at unexpected moments. None of it is random. It's all you played out in motion, disguised as external circumstances. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to projections, fighting shadows, trying to fix a world that's actually a reflection of their inner state. It's like punching a mirror and wondering why your hand hurts. In our modern world, this confusion has reached epidemic levels. We're drowning in content, swimming in information, but we've never been more disconnected from direct experience. We consume other people's thoughts, other people's lives, layering screen after screen between ourselves and reality, until we have no idea what's ours and what's borrowed. You scroll through social media and feel inadequate. You watch someone's highlight reel and feel like you're failing. But none of that is about them. It's about you. Your inadequacy was already there. The outside world didn't create these feelings. It simply gave them a shape, a face, a story you could point to. But it's not. That's never why. Two people attend the same party. Same music, same people, same everything. One leaves energized, feeling like the world is full of possibility. The other leaves drained, convinced everyone was judging them. Same party. Two completely different experiences. Why? Because they each brought their own inner world to that party. And that's what they experienced. The first person walked in with an unconscious belief that they belong, that people enjoy their company, that the world is generally safe. So they saw smiles as genuine, interpreted silence as comfortable, and felt connection easily. The second person walked in carrying an old wound, perhaps rejection from childhood, perhaps bullying in school. Their unconscious scanned for danger, interpreted the same smiles as fake, the same silence as exclusion, and felt isolated in a room full of people. Neither perception was objectively true. Both were projections. Both were films playing from within, casting images onto the blank screen of the present moment. This is what Jung meant when he wrote that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your unconscious mind is like a film projector running constantly in the darkness of your psyche. It's loaded with footage from your childhood, your traumas, your wounds, your inherited beliefs, and it projects all of this onto the blank screen of the present moment. Then you look at that screen and think you're seeing reality. But you're not. You're seeing yourself. The architecture of your prison is this: you live in a world almost entirely constructed by your unconscious mind, reacting to projections, fighting shadows, believing it's all happening to you rather than through you. You wake up to an alarm clock. Already your body tenses. Why? Because unconsciously, that sound connects to obligation, to having to be someone. You didn't choose that feeling. It chose you. You go to work. Someone says something casual, maybe a little joke. But you feel a sting. That sting isn't about their joke. It's about what it touched in you. Some old wound, some belief about not being good enough. The joke was neutral. Your reaction was everything. You come home, scroll through your phone. Suddenly you feel restless, vaguely anxious, like something's missing. You fill that void with shopping, with food, with another show. But what is that feeling? It's your psyche trying to tell you something. Some part of you that's been silenced. But instead of listening, you medicate. This is the unconscious running your life. 95% of your behavior is automatic. Stimulus response. You think you're making choices, but really you're running programs installed years ago. Have you ever laid awake at 3 in the morning wondering who you really are? Feeling like you're living someone else's life, going through motions that feel increasingly hollow. That feeling isn't confusion. That's clarity trying to break through. That's consciousness knocking on the door, saying, wake up, look at what you're doing, remember who you are beneath all the roles and reactions. Maybe you've thought something was wrong with you, that you're broken, damaged, fundamentally flawed in some way that others aren't. You look at people who seem to have it together and wonder what's missing in you. But here's what Jung discovered: you're not broken, you're unconscious. And there's a massive difference. Understanding this distinction could change your entire relationship with yourself. It shifts you from being a problem to be fixed, to being a mystery, to be revealed. Broken means something needs fixing from the outside. Unconscious means something needs revealing from within. The former keeps you dependent on solutions. The latter puts the power exactly where it belongs, in your hands. The chaos you experience, the pain, the confusion, none of it is because the world is cruel or because you're unlucky. It's because the world you're experiencing is a reflection of what's unresolved inside you. Change the inside and the outside transforms. Not because circumstances magically shift, but because you stop projecting the same film and start seeing what's actually there. This is the first step toward freedom, recognizing that you live in a hall of mirrors and everything you see is showing you yourself. The question is, are you paying attention? Now that you understand you're living in a projection, let's go deeper. Because here's where it gets really precise. You've been striking at mirrors, mistaking your reflection for an attacker. Jung's discovery of projection is perhaps the most practically useful insight in all of psychology. Your unconscious mind takes everything you can't accept about yourself and places it onto other people. You literally see yourself wearing their face, then react to them as if they're the problem. Every strong reaction you have to another person is actually self-recognition in disguise. Think about your boss who always criticizes you. That boss is your inner critic externalized. The voice inside your head that's been telling you you're not good enough. You've been listening to that voice your whole life, but it's so familiar you don't even hear it anymore. Until someone in the external world speaks with that exact tone, and suddenly you're triggered. But it's not really about them. It's about you finally hearing out loud what you've been silently telling yourself for years. Or the partner who never listens, who seems to tune you out, dismiss your feelings, make you feel invisible. That pattern keeps repeating, doesn't it? Different people, same dynamic. Why? Because the person who's not listening is you. There are parts of yourself you've silenced, needs you've ignored, truths you won't speak. And life keeps sending you partners who mirror that silence back to you until you finally pay attention to what you're doing to yourself. Your psyche is remarkably intelligent. It doesn't waste energy on random obstacles. Every person who triggers you, every situation that repeats, is precisely calibrated to show you what you most need to see. The triggers aren't accidents. They're invitations. This is how precise the psyche is. It doesn't make mistakes. It creates perfect mirrors showing you exactly what you need to see. Let me tell you about a woman who came to therapy exhausted and confused. Every romantic relationship followed the same pattern. She'd meet someone amazing, fall deeply, then slowly watch them become controlling. Different men, same trajectory. She was convinced she attracted damaged people. But her therapist asked a different question. What if these men weren't controlling you? What if you were projecting your fear of losing control onto them? At first, she resisted. But then she started paying attention. Every time she felt vulnerable, every time intimacy deepened, she would unconsciously look for signs of control. A casual suggestion became a demand. A preference became a rule. She was hypersensitive because deep down she was terrified of her own need for connection. The fear of losing control was hers. She just kept meeting men who could wear that fear. And here's what's remarkable. The moment she accepted this, her outer world softened. Not because the men changed, but because her perception transformed. She stopped seeing controllers and started seeing humans. This is a principle worth remembering. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That person at work who plays the victim, that triggers you because somewhere inside you've denied your own victimhood, your own valid complaints. The friend who's selfish, that bothers you because you've made selflessness your identity, denying your own needs. The colleague whose success irritates you, they're not the problem. Your abandoned dreams are. People don't trigger you because they're wrong. They trigger you because they're your mirrors. Once you understand this, everything changes. Every irritation becomes information. Every strong reaction becomes an opportunity for self-knowledge. Life stops being an obstacle course and becomes a feedback system. But here's what most people do. Instead, they try to change others. They switch jobs, switch partners, switch friends. And what happens? The same pattern shows up. Because the pattern isn't out there. It's in here. I once worked with a man who'd been through 5 jobs in 3 years. Every single one had toxic management. But when we looked deeper, we found unresolved authority issues from childhood. A father who'd been dismissive. And he'd spent his adult life unconsciously recreating that dynamic, hypersensitive to any criticism, seeing control where there was only structure. The bosses weren't the problem. His projection was. Once he saw this, he didn't need to change jobs. He changed his perception. Same boss, different experience. This is the power of understanding projection. It gives you back your power, because if the problem is out there, you're helpless. But if the problem is projection, then you have the power to change everything. Not by fixing the world, by waking up to yourself. So here's your work. Who triggers you? Make a list. 3 people who evoke strong reactions. Write down exactly what bothers you about them. Then ask yourself the uncomfortable question, when have I been this? Where in my life do I exhibit this exact quality? The answer to that question is the beginning of freedom. Because the moment you own your shadow, the moment you take back your projections, the world stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. Now let's talk about why your life feels like a broken record. Same song, different verse. Same lessons, different teachers. Unseen patterns repeat until recognized. Not by destiny, not by bad luck, by design. Your psyche is trying to teach you something, and it will keep presenting you with the same curriculum until you finally pass the test. This isn't punishment. This is education. Here's how it works. Imagine your unconscious as a movie projector loaded with specific films created from your early experiences, your wounds, your adaptations to survive childhood. Your unconscious doesn't create new content. It just plays the same films over and over, and you live out the plot believing it's reality. You create the film, forget you're the director, and start believing it's happening to you. These aren't random patterns. They're archetypal. Jung discovered that humans tend to fall into specific psychological roles. And once you identify with a role, you unconsciously create situations that confirm it. The rescuer, for example. Someone who learned early that their value comes from helping others. They became the helper, the fixer, the one who shows up for everyone. This feels noble, until you realize you're always giving and never receiving. Until you end up drained, resentful, wondering why no one takes care of you. Different people, same dynamic. Why? Because you're not attracting broken people. You're unconsciously seeking out situations that confirm your identity as a rescuer, or the loyal one. The person who learned that love means staying no matter what. They stay in jobs that drain them, relationships that hurt them, and they get betrayed. Again and again. Not because they're unlucky, but because the psyche is trying to wake them up to the fact that loyalty to others at the expense of loyalty to self is a form of self-betrayal. Or the achiever. They climb the ladder, hit the goals, check all the boxes, and it's never enough. Why? Because the wound isn't about achievement. It's about worthiness. And no external success can heal an internal belief of inadequacy. Let me tell you about someone whose story illustrates this perfectly. Successful man, stable income, everything going well. But his romantic relationships were disasters. Every single one followed the same cycle: meet someone, intense connection, and then slowly suspicion creeps in. He'd start questioning their loyalty, checking their phone, analyzing their words. He'd become controlling. And then it would happen. The relationship would implode. They'd leave. And he'd say, "See, I was right not to trust them." But here's what he couldn't see. He was creating the very thing he feared. His controlling behavior pushed them away. His suspicion became a self-fulfilling prophecy. When he finally entered therapy, the truth emerged. His parents had a volatile marriage that ended in divorce. As a child, he watched the person he loved most leave. And that abandonment imprinted so deeply that his unconscious made a decision: never be vulnerable again. Always be ready for the leaving. But the psyche is paradoxical. By trying to prevent abandonment, he ensured it. The pattern repeated because it was trying to make him conscious of the wound so he could finally heal it. This is crucial to understand. The psyche doesn't repeat patterns to torture you. It repeats them to wake you up. And there's neuroscience to back this up. Your brain creates neural pathways based on experience. Even if that road leads to pain, it becomes familiar. And the brain values familiarity over novelty. Known suffering feels safer than unknown freedom. So you stay in the loop. The rescuer keeps rescuing until they collapse. The loyal one keeps being loyal until they're betrayed into awareness. The achiever keeps achieving until they face the void that no success can fill. But here's the insight that changes everything. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. The patterns don't repeat because you're broken. They repeat because you're not yet conscious. And pain is the psyche's alarm clock. Every time you hit the same wall, it's getting louder. What you call bad luck is simply unresolved material trying to return home. So what's your pattern? Be honest. What keeps showing up in your life despite your best efforts to escape it? The job that starts great but becomes suffocating. The relationship that starts passionate but becomes painful. Whatever it is, that's not the universe being cruel. That's your psyche being persistent. And here's the question that breaks the loop. What pattern have I been living that I refuse to see? Not why does this keep happening to me? That question keeps you in victim consciousness. But why do I keep creating this? That question puts you in the director's chair where you actually belong. Because the moment you see the pattern, really see it not just intellectually, but viscerally, the moment you recognize yourself as the author of your own repeating story, that's when the loop breaks. Consciousness is the cure. Not willpower, not strategy. Just seeing. Just recognition. Just the light of awareness shining on what's been operating in darkness. So you've recognized projection. You've seen your patterns. Now what? This is where most people make the fatal mistake. They try to fix it. You keep trying to change the movie by shouting at the screen. Think about your bookshelf right now. How many self-help books are sitting there, half-read or forgotten? How many videos have you watched promising transformation? How many workshops have you started with genuine hope only to find yourself back where you began? You've read the books. You've tried the techniques. The affirmations, the visualizations, the morning routines, the gratitude journals. And maybe they worked for a while. You felt that temporary high, that rush of possibility. But then what happened? Real life happened. A stressful day, an unexpected trigger. And all that knowledge just evaporated. You found yourself right back in the pattern. And you thought, maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe the next book will be the one that finally works. So you searched again and again. And the cycle continues each time with a little less hope, a little more desperation, a little deeper exhaustion. This is the self-help trap. And it's far more sophisticated than it appears. Seeking itself has become the problem. Not seeking as a genuine impulse toward growth, but seeking as a sophisticated form of avoidance. You're not actually trying to change. You're trying to feel like you're changing. There's a massive difference between transformation and the simulation of transformation. Between actually doing the inner work and consuming content about the inner work. And our culture enables this perfectly. We've turned personal development into entertainment growth, into content wisdom, into sound bites you can scroll past in 3 seconds. More information does not equal more transformation. Knowledge in the head is not realization in the bones. Understanding a wound is not the same as healing it. Here's what's really happening: spiritual bypassing. You're using concepts to avoid feelings, using positive thinking to avoid shadow work. The endless consumption of content has become a substitute for actual inner work. We live in what I call dopamine culture. Everything is designed to give you a hit, a rush, a momentary sense of progress. Social media notifications, streaming services, even educational content, it's all engineered to trigger that reward response in your brain. You get a little hit of dopamine, feel good for a moment, then need more. And here's what that does to the search for meaning. It turns it into another addiction. Just another scroll, another feed, another hit. You get a rush from a powerful video. That insight feels good. Your brain releases dopamine. But like any drug, the effect wears off. The half-life of inspiration is getting shorter and shorter. What used to sustain you for weeks now barely lasts through dinner. So you need another hit. Another video, another book, another guru. Each new solution promises to be the one. And the algorithm feeds this beautifully. Endless content, infinite searching, never finding. You're not seeking truth. You're seeking the feeling of seeking truth. This is the deepest lie we tell ourselves, that we need more information to finally be okay. But here's what the mystics and depth psychologists have always known. And the more you search for meaning, the further you drift from it. Why? Because searching assumes you lack something. It assumes you're incomplete, broken, missing a piece. And that assumption is what keeps you trapped. Not the lack of answers. The belief that you don't already have them. What if there's nothing to fix? What if there's only something to see? This question stops people in their tracks. Because our entire culture is built on the idea that you're not enough as you are. That you need to improve, optimize, upgrade. But Jung discovered something radical. You already are what you're seeking. The peace you want isn't somewhere else. It's underneath the noise. The wisdom you seek isn't in books. It's in the silence between thoughts. The wholeness you crave isn't a future achievement. It's your present reality, obscured by the belief that you're broken. And within the rich tradition of Carl Jung, empath, and personal development, this insight stands as perhaps the most transformative. The wound is not healed by understanding it intellectually, but by feeling it fully, by bringing consciousness to it, without trying to fix or change it. You can't think your way to wholeness. The wound isn't healed by understanding it. It's healed by feeling it, by bringing consciousness to it, without trying to fix it. But that's terrifying. Because feeling the wound means experiencing the pain you've been running from. It means sitting with the grief, the rage, the fear you've been medicating with content consumption. So you don't. You keep searching. Because searching feels like progress. And doing something feels better than sitting still with what is. But here's the truth: the search is the suffering. The seeking is what keeps you from finding. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes? Every video you watch looking for answers, every book you read hoping for the magic key, you're dreaming. You're in the dream of separation, and the dream that says wisdom is out there and you are in here. But awakening is the recognition that the distance never existed, that the seeker and the sought are one. This doesn't mean stop learning. It means stop using learning as avoidance. Stop collecting insights as a substitute for embodiment. The shift happens when you stop asking, "What do I need to learn to be okay?" and start asking, "What am I avoiding by continuing to search? What pain am I not willing to feel? What truth am I not ready to face?" These questions don't lead to more information. They lead to presence, to being here with what is, And in that presence, something extraordinary happens. The compulsive seeking stops. Not because you give up, but because you realize you were never actually lost. Now we arrive at the territory most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The shadow, your dark twin. The parts of yourself you've exiled, denied, buried so deep, you've forgotten they're yours. The parts you deny don't disappear. They run your life from the basement of your psyche. So what exactly is the shadow? It's everything you've rejected about yourself. And here's what surprises people. It's not just negative traits. It's also your buried gold, your power, your sexuality, your creativity, your confidence. The cheerful person hiding profound grief. The nice person suppressing volcanic rage. The successful person hiding bone-deep fear. The independent person terrified of their need for connection. Each of us carries an opposite inside, denied and suppressed, growing stronger in the darkness. And the more you deny your shadow, the more power it has over you. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, but it takes tremendous energy. And the moment you relax your grip, it explodes to the surface with even more force. Have you ever surprised yourself with a sudden outburst of anger, a decision that made no sense, an attraction you couldn't explain? That's your shadow speaking, demanding recognition through the only means it has available, when you won't acknowledge it consciously. The gentle person who suddenly explodes over something small. That explosion isn't about the dirty dishes. It's about years of suppressed rage finally finding an outlet. The rational person who makes an irrational decision, quitting a stable job on impulse, entering a relationship they know is wrong. That's not a lapse in judgment. That's the shadow taking the wheel. The moral person who judges others harshly, who sees sin everywhere. That's not righteousness. That's projection. They're attacking externally what they cannot accept internally. Here's a story that illustrates this perfectly. There was a woman known to everyone as incredibly caring. Always available, always listening. People praised her for being selfless. But in her romantic relationships, she was a disaster. She lived in constant anxiety. She would check her partner's phone. She'd lose sleep imagining scenarios that had no basis in reality. When she finally entered therapy, the truth emerged. Her shadow contained a massive fear of abandonment. As a child, her father had left. So she became the helper, the giver. This felt safe. But all that denied vulnerability didn't disappear. It went into the shadow. And from there, it controlled her completely. By denying her vulnerability consciously, she let it dominate her unconsciously. But here's what happened when she did the work, when she finally admitted, I am also vulnerable. I am also afraid. Something extraordinary occurred. The compulsive anxiety lessened. The need to control diminished. She stopped fighting it and started integrating it. And this is the key insight. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You cannot heal what you won't feel. You cannot integrate what you won't acknowledge. The shadow isn't the enemy. Denial is. So how do you work with the shadow? First, understand that shadow work isn't about eliminating darkness. It's about bringing it into consciousness. The shadow contains energy, creativity, vitality. Your anger isn't just destructive. It's also your capacity for boundaries. Your fear isn't just weakness. It's also wisdom about danger. Start by noticing projection. What you hate in others reveals your shadow. That person who's too loud, too needy, too ambitious. Whatever triggers you intensely is showing you something about yourself. Then go deeper. Ask, when have I been this? Where do I exhibit this quality? Then comes the hard part, admitting it. Saying out loud, I am also angry. I am also afraid. I am also selfish. And something miraculous happens when you own your shadow. The compulsive behaviors lessen. The self-sabotage decreases. Why? Because the shadow only controls you when it's unconscious. This doesn't mean acting out every shadow impulse. Integration isn't about becoming your worst self. It's about finding constructive expressions for denied energy. The person who suppressed anger can transform it into the strength to set boundaries. The person who denied fear can use that sensitivity to understand others. You're not eliminating the shadow. You're giving it a conscious role instead of an unconscious one. And here's what people discover. When they do this work, they become more whole, more real, more trustworthy. Because when you're no longer hiding from yourself, you stop needing to hide from others. The shadow isn't what's wrong with you. The shadow is half of your completeness, waiting to be reclaimed. Now let's talk about the opposite problem. Not what you've hidden from the world, but what you've shown it. Not the darkness you've denied, but the light you've performed. Jung called this the persona. It's the social mask you wear to be accepted to navigate the world without constant friction. And it's necessary. You need different aspects of yourself for different contexts. But here's where it becomes a prison, when you forget it's a mask. When you identify so completely with the role that you lose touch with the person underneath. You've been living for the audience, forgetting you're also human. The persona takes many forms. The perfect employee, the devoted parent, the strong man, the nice woman. These aren't just behaviors, they're identities. And the problem is when the role is all that's left. Let me tell you about someone whose story captures this perfectly. A woman in her early 40s praised by everyone as the perfect mother. Her home was immaculate. Meals were homemade. Her children were well-dressed, well-behaved. From the outside, she had it all figured out. But inside, she was drowning. Every night after everyone went to bed, she would sit alone in the kitchen, too exhausted to even cry. She longed for rest, for one afternoon to herself, for the simple freedom to not be needed for just a few hours. But she couldn't ask for it, because asking would mean admitting she wasn't the perfect mother. And if she wasn't the perfect mother, then who was she? Her entire identity had become wrapped up in this role. Without it, she felt like she would disappear. When she finally broke down in therapy, her voice shaking, tears streaming, she said something that cut right to the heart of it. I don't know who I really am beyond this role. When I try to imagine myself without being their mother, without being his wife, without being the one everyone depends on, there's just emptiness, like I don't exist. The persona of perfect mother had become her prison, and she was the exhausted prisoner inside. This is what happens when you live entirely through the mask. You become so identified with the role that losing it feels like death. But here's what Jung understood. Persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself and others think one is. The mask isn't you. It's what you and others have agreed to believe about you. So how do you know when you're living through persona rather than authenticity? Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want to, or to maintain an image? Do I feel exhausted from maintaining my public face? Am I different people in different contexts? With no core self, do I feel fake, like I'm acting? Am I terrified of being found out? These aren't signs of being a bad person. They're signs of persona possession. And removing the mask doesn't mean opposing society or abandoning responsibility. It means something far simpler and far more difficult, allowing yourself to be real. To say, I'm tired when you're tired. To say, I need help when you need help. To admit confusion, doubt, anger, sadness, need. To fail without shame. To be imperfect without apology. This is terrifying, because the persona has been your protection. The mask has kept you safe from judgment, from rejection, from the vulnerability of being truly seen. taking it off feels like standing naked in public. Every flaw visible, every imperfection exposed, every weakness on display for the world to judge. But here's what happens when you do it, when you finally allow yourself to be real. You become free. Free from the exhausting performance of being someone you're not. Free from the constant monitoring of how you're coming across. Free from the voice in your head that's always asking, am I doing this right? Do they approve? Am I meeting their expectations? And your relationships change fundamentally. When you show up as your real self, imperfect and honest and human, you attract people who want to know your real self. The ones who love the mask drift away, and that's actually a gift, though it doesn't feel like one at first. Because the space they leave creates room for genuine connection with people who see you and love you anyway. Start small. Notice when you're playing a role. Ask yourself, am I expressing what I truly feel or saying what will make them like me? And with the principles of Carl Jung, empath, and personal development, we understand that this unmasking is not about destroying the social self, but about right relationship with it, where you use the persona as a tool rather than being used by it. Remember, persona is a tool, not an identity. You put on appropriate masks for different situations, but you remain rooted in who you are underneath. When you know how to take off the mask, you can wear it lightly. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to maintain an image to be worthy. You don't need to hide your humanity to be accepted. It's called truth, and it will set you free. So you've recognized projection. You've seen your patterns. You've met your shadow. You've begun removing your mask. Now we arrive at the ultimate shift. You are not the character. You're the awareness watching the story. Think about everything we've discussed. The unconscious projections, the repetitive patterns, the shadow you've denied, the persona you've performed. All of it is content, material arising in consciousness. But it's not consciousness itself. You are not your thoughts. You're aware of thoughts. You are not your emotions. You're aware of emotions. You are not your history, your wounds, your story. You're the awareness that witnesses all of it. This is what Jung called the self with a capital S. Not the ego, which is your everyday sense of me, but the totality of your being. The you that's always been here, watching every experience unchanged by any experience. Let me take you back to a pivotal moment in Jung's own life. There was a period documented in the Red Book where he underwent what could only be called a psychological crisis. Visions, confrontations with inner figures, a descent into his own unconscious that nearly consumed him. His ego, his constructed sense of self, was dissolving. And in that dissolution, he discovered something extraordinary. There was something watching it all. An awareness that remained even when his identity fell apart. This was his encounter with the self. The realization that beyond all the content of the psyche, there's a witness. This isn't just mystical poetry. There's neuroscience backing this up. It's called meta-awareness, the capacity to be aware of your own awareness. And it's the doorway to freedom. Because here's what happens when you shift from ego to self. You stop identifying with your story. You can have trauma in your history without being traumatized in your present. You can feel emotions without being consumed by them. You can watch your thoughts without believing everyone is absolute truth. The difference is like watching a movie versus being in the movie. When you're identified with ego, you're in the movie, caught up in the drama, believing it's all happening to you. When you shift to self, you're watching the movie, still engaged, but no longer lost in it. You can appreciate the story without forgetting it's a story. You can feel the emotions without drowning in them. You are not your trauma. You are the consciousness aware of the trauma. The trauma happened. The wound is real. But the you that's reading these words right now, the awareness that's taking this in, that consciousness was never damaged. It's been here the whole time, whole and complete. This reframes everything. Depression isn't your enemy. It's a signal from your psyche. Anxiety isn't malfunction. It's communication. Pain isn't punishment. It's invitation to consciousness. Your symptoms are the psyche trying to wake you up. And within the framework of Carl Jung, empath, and personal development, this recognition of the witnessing self is perhaps the most profound gift to the understanding that healing isn't about becoming someone new, but about recognizing who you've always been beneath the accumulated wounds. This is individuation, Jung's term for the process of becoming whole, not by adding something you lack, but by recognizing what you already are and integrating all the parts you've split off. It's the journey from ego-centered consciousness to self-centered consciousness. So how do you practice this? When you're triggered, pause. Don't react. Just notice, I'm triggered. Interesting. That pause is the self speaking. When patterns repeat, ask, what is my psyche trying to reveal? Not, why is this happening to me again? The first question opens you to self. When pain surfaces, sit with it. Don't try to fix it. Just observe it. There's grief here. There's fear here. Observe without identifying. And something remarkable happens when you practice this consistently. You stop being tossed around by life. Not because life stops challenging you, but because you found the still point inside that doesn't move, regardless of what's happening outside. You become like a mountain. The weather changes, storms come and go, seasons shift from winter to spring, to summer to fall. But the mountain remains. It doesn't resist the weather. It doesn't try to control the seasons. It simply is stable and present while everything moves around it. The storms still come. The pain still arises. The triggers still activate. But you're not in the storm anymore. You're the sky in which the storm appears. You're the space in which all experience unfolds. And that space is never disturbed by what moves through it. And from that place, something extraordinary emerges: compassion. Because when you can see yourself clearly, you start seeing everyone else's patterns too. And instead of judgment, you feel kinship. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. That difficult person isn't your enemy. They're you in a different costume. Every teacher, every challenge, every relationship is life showing you yourself. This is the shift from ego to self, from being the character to being the awareness. And in that shift, freedom isn't something you achieve. It's something you recognize you've always had. So here we are. We've traveled from projection to pattern, from shadow to mask, from ego to self. And now comes the recognition that ties it all together. Every video you've watched was you calling yourself home. Every teacher was your own wisdom in disguise. Every book was you writing to yourself. Every heartbreak was you trying to wake yourself up. This could be the last video you'll ever need to watch, not because I've given you some special knowledge, but because you've seen where the answers actually come from. They come from within. They always have. Every insight you've ever had arose from inside, from the consciousness you are. The search ends when you realize the seeker and the sought are one. You've been looking for peace, and you are peace. You've been looking for wholeness, and you are wholeness. You've been looking for the truth, and you are the truth, looking for itself. Healing isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming present. It's about being here with what is, rather than lost in what was or anxious about what will be. Not because your problems disappear, but because you stop identifying with them as problems. They become experiences, weather patterns moving through the sky of your awareness. You were never broken. You were never lost. You were simply unconscious of what you already are. And now you have a choice. You can go back to the search, back to consuming content, back to looking outside. Or you can turn inward, not to find something new, but to recognize what's always been here. The journey continues, but it's different now. Because you're not traveling towards something, you're exploring from something. From the recognition of who you are, from wholeness. You don't need to fix your life. You need to wake up from the dream that it's broken. You don't need more wisdom. You need to embody what you already know. You don't need another video. You need to close this one and sit with yourself, in silence, in presence. Because that's where the real work happens. Not in consumption, but in presence. Not in understanding, but in being. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And you already are it. You've always been it. The whole journey was just removing what obscured that truth. The projection, the patterns, the shadow, the mask, the identification with ego. Layer by layer, you've been peeling them back. And what's underneath isn't something you need to create. It's something you need to recognize. It's you, the real you, the aware, whole, complete you that was here before the wounds that remains during the healing, and that will be here after everything else falls away. So this is where we part ways. But you'll carry this with you, not as information, but as recognition. And the next time you're triggered, you'll remember projection. The next time a pattern repeats, you'll ask, what am I being shown? The next time you meet your shadow, you'll say, hello, part of me. And slowly, moment by moment, choice by choice, awareness by awareness, you'll individuate. You'll become whole, not by adding anything, but by recognizing everything you already are. Not by becoming someone new and improved, but by remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Before the wounds, before the masks, before the forgetting. That original self, that essence, it never left. It's been here all along, patiently waiting beneath the layers of conditioning and adaptation and survival strategies. Thank you for watching. But more importantly, thank you for being willing to look inside. That willingness, that courage to turn toward yourself rather than away. That's the beginning of everything. Most people spend their entire lives running from themselves. The fact that you're here, that you've stayed through this entire journey, that you're willing to question, to examine, to see, that takes remarkable courage. Honor that in yourself. Now take a moment. Close your eyes if you can. Take a breath. And just notice who is watching. Who is aware of these thoughts, these feelings, this moment? That's who you are. That's what you've been looking for. And it's been here the whole time. If this resonated with you, if something shifted, share it in the comments. Not what you learned, but what you recognized. What pattern did you see? What projection did you catch? What part of yourself are you ready to meet? Because your sharing is a mirror for someone else. Someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. And subscribe if you want to continue this exploration together. Not to add more content to consume, but to create a community of people committed to waking up, to seeing clearly, to living consciously. Because this is the work, this is what matters. Not the next video, but what you do with this one. Not the next insight, but how you embody this one. Not the next step on the path, but being fully present with where you are right now. Everything has been you all along, every teacher, every mirror, every moment. You calling yourself home, you trying to wake yourself up. Welcome home. The door was never locked, and now you know it.